This is a smoke break with Spaceman Jones, proudly sponsored by Earthy Now and Urban Combat Wrestling.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in with us. This is Spaceman Jones with a smoke break. And we are talking this week to Miss Jessica Tomasin, who is she's kind of like a Swiss Army knife of event promoters. You know, she's pretty much can do it all. She can and we'll just let her tell more about who she is. Hey Jess, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Doing good.
It's good to see your face.
Yeah.
It's good to talk to you.
Yeah, as always. And we're kind of in some pretty trying times right now as a country, as a people. How are you just holding up in general?
Honestly, it's been really tough. It's just to, it's just having this feeling of helplessness, in a way of like wanting to help, but help in the right ways with everything that's going on. And, I don't know, it's like a mixed bag of emotions. Cause in one way I feel like everything that's happening is so necessary. Mm-hmm. And it's just, you can feel this sort of collective pain. And I, try to find the best way to show up for my Black friends and do so in a way that's also, that's like uplifting and also holding myself and other people accountable. So it's sort of this mixed bag of like trying to figure out like the best ways to do that, right? So it's just like getting in fights on social media isn't necessarily like, that's never been my thing. But on the flip side, then it's just like you see people just say the dumbest shit and you just want to
you want to strangle them a little bit.
Yeah, like, and it's just trying it, and then just seeing how pervasive it is. Like, it's everywhere, right? It's like you see, like, some person will say some dumb shit, and you want to just correct them on it, and then you see the comments, and they're even worse, right? And so you're just like, well, if I say this, and it's just one of those things of like, have to put the work in recognizing our own shit, right? And like, all of that.
Being aware and cognizant of the ways that we are adding to the bullshit, exactly. And I know one way that I like to use to be able to see clearly, which is a little bit of like meditation. And we take an opportunity in the beginning of the show to kind of slow it down and take a few breaths so that we can bring some spirit and some sanctity. And I feel like this is a good moment to do that. I'm
all about it.
Because I think that we were escalating up to a level where we were going to be like just trading back how bad things suck.
Right, right.
That's kind of got its own detriments. So we'll just take a time to step back and I'll count off 10 breaths and we'll get a little bit of.
Okay.
All right. 1. And for everybody out there listening, this would be a good call for you to kind of calm down and take these breaths with us. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. I feel a lot better, a lot more calm.
Thanks. I needed that. I did. I really did.
It's hard to keep that calm balance when there's so many things in our world that's telling us that we're unsafe or that we're not enough, or that we need to be doing something. For you being like a white lady in America, I think that you guys are instrumental in every phase of race relations throughout time in America. I think that that a lot of times that you guys' voice has been hijacked for the most part, you know. And so I want to know how you feel you are and how has it been in your life, like engaging in your experience as a white female, to kind of navigate this world where like what you're afraid of and what you gravitate towards kind of is being used in different and all kind of different ways to be a detriment to other people. Kind of like a long time ago, black men got murdered and lynched because they supposedly looked at a white woman, or you know, just this whole legacy of the interaction between like white women and black men. It's been something that has been like fetishized. It's and I just want to know about your experience and how you see that as you being a white woman. I don't never get that. I don't know if you've ever been asked that question before. I would like to know.
No, I haven't been asked that question before. I think that, you know, it's so interesting that you asked, because part of it is that, you know, and this is funny. It's funny that you're asking me this, right? Because I remember, so 3 years ago, you and I were sitting together.
Yes.
At the studio, and I was getting ready to get my new car, and I got an Audi, and it's the first time I've ever had a new car, and it's a really nice car. And you said, do me a favor. And I said, sure, what? And you go, don't turn into one of those white women that drive a foreign car that lock their doors when someone like that looks like me walks by them.
Yeah, I remember that conversation.
Right? And, you know, I know that that's a real concern. And, you know, it really, like, it hurt my heart, you know, and I know that there's 100% a reason why you said that. And I remember retelling that story to my mom. And I was retelling that story to my mom because my mom had said something racist about brown people.
Uh-huh.
And I called her on it. Right?
Yeah.
And so, not right in the moment, because I was really taken back. And so I wanted to think about it and be able to have a thoughtful conversation with her. And so I did. And it was something about me going down to Miami and there being a bunch of, like, why would you want to go there? There's a bunch of Mexicans down there or something like that. And I was like, well, first of all, you're classifying, you know, brown people into one category, and that's not, you know, that's not fair or whatever. And so we had a real conversation about it and about her experiences with her experiences and with some brown people that she works with that have not been good. And then I told her that story that you said, and she said, well, you would never do that. That is so not you. That is not what you would do. And I was like, Mom, like, I don't think you understand that, like, racism is ingrained in us as a society, as a culture, as white people. I said, I was raised around, you know, even though we were raised in a very diverse area growing up, you know, in Metro Detroit, but I was like, racist things were said all the time. That was part of our upbringing. And so that I have to be accountable to that, you know? And so, and I said, also experiences shape our the way that we think and sort of in our mental models. I said, what do you think Spaceman's experiences have been? Like, he's speaking from experience. And it wasn't until I said that, you know, that we're friends, and you said this as like, these are my experiences.
Yeah.
She didn't get the whole generalization that, like, it was almost like I had to put it like white people being generalized, right?
Yeah.
For her to understand, was like, oh, you would never do that. You're not like that, and this and that. And it's just like, well, first of all, like, we all have to own that that's in us because we've been a part of it, right? And we have to do the work. And I was like, this is me doing the work. So I know that probably doesn't necessarily answer your question, but it's something that weighs on my mind. And I think about, right? I think about the fact of, it's almost like I want to make, it's like, I don't know, I want to go over and above to be like, hey, I'm not afraid of you, right? It's like, this is something, or whatever that, does that make sense? Like, that's the thing. And it's like, it's not an easy thing to figure it out, but it's like, I have to do it, right?
It makes a ton of sense. It makes a ton of sense. And I can equate it kind of like in this way. You wake up to a situation and realize that a lot of the ideas that you hold, okay, for me, I have been completely misogynistic in my life. You know what I'm saying? Because of the ideas that I was informed with through my upbringing, through the choices that I made, through the things that I allowed myself to kind of ingest as media, like music and movies and all of that stuff, informed me in a certain way. And it was my choosing to choose to go along those type of paths and to be into that type of stuff. And when I realized kind of, whoa, this is kind of putting me in a position to be this guy who I don't want to be, because people are speaking out about how it's making them feel, the activities that I'm into. You see what I'm saying? If I can recognize like the stuff that I do on a regular basis is making this segment of the society, people who are speaking out about it, feel this type of way. You know what I'm saying? Am I going to continue to defend it, and try to make some big platform about defending what I want to do because I don't want to change and it's hurting other people? Or do I listen and try to do that work of, well, let me look inside and see, am I really like this? And then I had to like be tough with myself and say, yeah, man, you need to really confront these things about yourself. And that's a hard road. That's a hard road to hoe, to say some country shit for a minute. It's a hard road to hoe. And what I said that to you about was that I had been seeing so many people in the community, white women in these Audis or these VW SUVs, and they got coexist on their bumper sticker. But when I encounter them in real life, ain't no coexisting. It's either fetishizing or fear. One of the two, and neither one of them meet me as a person, as who I am, So I had to really look at myself. And it wasn't until I started recognizing things about myself that I wanted to change that was hurting other people, then I started to recognize like the many ways in society that it's like built. Our ignorance as people and wanting to stay out of being a bad person. We'll do a lot of shit to escape that moniker on ourselves. You know what I'm saying? And build up a lot of false ideas. And I think that in this time, that a lot of people are waking up from their own bullshit because, it's like being held right in your face. And I think that America collectively, we are being kind of forced to sit in the mirror right now and look at what we've become collectively on all sides. Been a lot of unrest in the city. What are your thoughts on the because I feel like we've been in this protest for about 8 years now.
Right.
And now, how do you feel about the way that things are going right now, especially in this town?
It's, it's scary. I was downtown today, and I went and walked around downtown just to see what the damage was like. I wasn't at the protest. I wasn't at the protest the last 2 days. I was just getting over a stomach bug. But it's scary in a lot of ways. And also, like, part of it is that we're already divided to begin with, right? And so, but I watched the protests, this live stream last night, and, it just seems like it's mostly was peaceful to a certain extent. It's like when it goes dark and there's always, it's just the same thing. It's like a couple bad apples ruined, right? And we say the same thing about like, well, why can't we say the same thing about about, the bad police officers and things like that. But it's just like, it's scary. It really is. It's scary. And it's just, but also I see, like, there's this give and the take of it, right? So when the day of with the news of the George Floyd murder, I woke up that morning, I saw it on my news on my phone, and when I saw the I Can't Breathe thing, I was like, what year was Eric Garner, right? This is the first thing that I think. I'm like, Eric Garner, what year was that? So I look it up immediately, right? I'm like, Eric Garner, because I remember the I Can't Breathe thing. I'm like, 6 years ago, 6 fucking years ago.
We've been fighting.
Right? 6 years. And I'm saying this, like, that's still fresh in my mind as a white woman, right? And I'm just like, man, that is, when you think about the fact of, like, putting, I am all about action and trying to make things and work for change. That it's like I've dedicated my life to it.
Yeah.
And so when you see that and you're just like, how can you not, at some point, how can you just not, like, sometimes you have to meet violence with violence, and that is not, I'm not condoning violence, but it's like, what else can you do? Right. And I don't have an answer for that, but
the thing that I see, and I have been out, not for a super long time, but I have been downtown the past couple nights seeing what's going on. And there is a definite, when you're in the crowd, you can feel that there's a vibe of the people who are being peaceful. And then there's another vibe of people who, for want of a better term, are like agent provocateurs.
Right.
I don't know who these people working for or working with, but they're not working with the people that's protesting.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because you have several instances of unnamed, unidentified people doing things, and the black folks who are at this march, who is about us, are telling these people, don't be throwing the fireworks, chill, quit doing that. Why you doing this? Stop this, and they
right.
do it anyway. You know what I'm saying? So it's people in this world who are lustful for violence. They are lustful for settling scores and being able to they want to settle some scores and be able to disappear, do it anonymously, and then the violence being blamed on the protest or whatnot. And then you got actual, I'm gonna say, lack of a better word, probably state sponsored,
right.
the cops that's undercover in the crowd, or just all kind of people are taking advantage. And there's one thing about violence is that it opens the door to unsavory characters, and you got to be very, very careful about using it. You know what I'm saying? As a form of civil disobedience, because hijacked by less savory. And then I think that the escalations, and that's why we got a curfew today, is that the escalations have just been
right.
And they don't want the town to be tore up. But I'm saying we don't want to keep having to say rest in peace and I can't breathe and hands up, don't shoot. We need to have some things have to change. Change.
And that's part of it too, is just, and I get that. That's part of the, there's that you see that these people that are coming out just to create chaos, right? And not necessarily, it's not the people who are there to protest, right? But then you see that on, all of that online, or it's just like, oh, people are rioting and looting, and it's just like gone. It feels like critical thinking is gone to not be able to do it. In the age of fake news, you really have to do your homework, right? And so many people are not, and the internet gives everybody an opportunity to just spout their opinion, and you know what they say about opinions.
Yep, they everybody got one, and it usually stinks.
Yeah, and but I mean, the other part of it is like, I am usually one of those people that, I put my head down and go to work, right? I'm like, okay, what can I do? So when I see things, for instance, of, it starts on a local level. Yeah. In terms of like our elected officials and community organizing. I will say this is one of the things that what I've recognized and realized from this time, from the pandemic to begin with, for instance, right, is how how do we come together as a community and show up for one another when these other systems don't work, right? And some of the systems are broken and some of the systems are working as they were designed to do, which is to be oppressive.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I've seen, you know, that's what I've been doing with my time during the pandemic is like, how can I help other people? So, of course, working in music for so many years, and there's, you know, where my resources are, doing things to help support the music community. And so whether that's a list of resources, which I've put together for streaming, or financial services, or we've been serving meals to the community for the last couple weeks. We're taking today off and then doing it next week and the week after, of like people in the music community. We really don't turn anybody away, but other essential workers too, you know, the Family Justice Center, you know, people who work for DSS and Helpmate and Our Voice, and, you know, the fire departments, things like that. So it's, you know, it's been really cool to see the community come together and support one another, because what I hope from that is like, oh, well, this system doesn't work. We're creating our own over here, and this becomes obsolete, right? But you know, it's almost like that's got to happen. And then the same thing is just like, you look at the fact, like, you know, there's so many ways that it's like so obvious in terms of voter suppression's a perfect example. I mean, we're dealing with that in the state of North Carolina with the gerrymandering and the way that the maps are drawn. I mean, that's very much designed to silence, you know, the minority votes.
Yes.
And it's just one of those things. It's just so working to, you know, get people elected, or doing, you know, electing the people that are going to create those changes from starting at the local level, you know, and then getting those community organizers into that are already doing great work, getting them into positions of power and things like that.
I was having a conversation with my friend Demetrius Jones, old Ilski, and he had a great idea. He said, why aren't we making it more honorable for our young men and women to go into law enforcement, to go into being prosecutors, so that we can have folks with the right idea inside of those places, man. We need young guys who want to grow up and be good FBI agents.
Yeah.
Grow up and be good cops and good prosecutors who understand that Black lives do indeed matter. You see, what's not happening is that we done concentrated, like, all the little kids want to grow up and be entertainers or athletes, especially in the Black community, man. We need a lot more representation inside of the system, because the system ain't going well. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people, you know, system ain't going nowhere. It's here. It's already laid in. No matter where you're going, you're going to have a group of people who keep the criminal element from taking away from the rest of the people. You know what I'm saying? We need our voice and our representation in there. I remember when I was growing up, Asheville had a lot of cops that was from the community. Walt Robinson, Quentin, White. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And that has gone by the wayside, because ain't none of our kids wanting to grow up and be cops. So you got all of these people from other parts of the world that's coming in that's not connected to our community, and they are the ones who are policing us, and they have the terriblest idea, the worst idea. You know, I really challenge our mayor and our city managers and our county commissioners and our city council to really look at this situation and see what can we do to continue to create opportunity for people who have not had any opportunity. You know what I'm saying? It's got to be more than just bringing hotels and tourism to this town, which I also say that the tourism has created a lot more opportunity in the town than when I'm from Asheville. I grew up here. When I grew up, the opportunities for Black folks were far between. You know what I'm saying? Now you can create a business, you can do all kind of stuff, but the attitude from a lot of folks is that they want us to stay where we at. You know what I'm saying? They don't want us in their stores downtown. They don't want us in their restaurants. They don't want us in our venues, You know what I'm saying? They want us to stay on the little places of land where they put us at, but they want to put Black Lives Matters in their storefronts. They want to have coexist bumper stickers, but I want to see the rubber meet the road. I want people to stop doing stuff for likes and really help, man. We got a population in this town. We just talking about locally.
Right.
That's the only place that we can do something at. But locally, I think that we have enough. Look at how much money come in on tourism. Why is there not Why is there not black managers in all of the restaurants? You see what I'm saying? Why is there not black
Right.
coming to the restaurants downtown and eating the food? Like, what's the disconnect in this town? I think we need to tell the truth
Right.
so that we can fix it. You know what I'm saying? Y'all want us in y'all dish pits. Y'all want us prepping. Y'all want us cleaning the hotel rooms, but you don't want to spend the money in them. You see what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
don't our faces and our culture in y'all places, but y'all want to use our bodies for labor. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Let's stop with this let's stop with this racist town with this thin veneer of progressiveness on top of it.
Right.
Let's quit it.
And I think that, I think that's one of the things that we deal with, in this town, right? Is that it's interesting when I talk to people about Asheville, and they're like, Asheville's so great. Asheville's so great. And I've been here for over 20 years. And, I'm always quick to point out, one of the things that I point out about Asheville is like, Asheville is extremely segregated. And then, and part of it too, I think is important to like, know your history of the town, if people understood, and how many people know about the fact of like the Buncombe Turnpike and coming through the neighborhood and urban removal and all of that's happened in Asheville, right? Like these are things that like, me as a white person living in this town have to have that accountability of knowing, like I have to educate myself. I don't need to go to you and go, tell me about the history of Black Asheville, or that. It's like, that's my job to be able to figure that out. The internet exists and,
And for me, when I go and I want to know something, I go research it myself and I go dig through all of the documents. It has a much heavier impact on me.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Instead of going to somebody like, hey, how does this make you feel? And you can have this conversation and then you walk away and you really ain't putting no time in to and like took in some new information. I applaud you for that. It's because it's hard to do that. It's hard to get some information to change your mind.
Well, and it's interesting. I remember when Stephanie Brown came in to explore Asheville, and she came from DC, and I was like, hey, I want to introduce myself, right? Because part of it was just I wanted to advocate for the music community, right? And just music in general, because for the longest time, I would always ask to be put on, I'd go on these panels and do these like chamber things or whatever. And they're like, oh, music is this neat little thing we have here. And I'm just like, music is a business. This is an economic driver. It's not called the Music Fun Time Party Hour. It's called music business for a reason. And so I remember having a conversation with her, and I think I was doing the Goombay Festival at this time, right? So I was working on that. And we went to lunch at the Laughing Seed, and I said, have you noticed how few Black people are downtown? And she said, yes, I have. She'd only lived in town for maybe a month at this point. Yeah. And I said, if no one has already told you this, and I told her about Asheville being extremely segregated. And we had a conversation about it. She said it was definitely a culture shock for her coming from DC.
And everywhere.
And it was one of those things where I said, is this going to be a focus of trying to make, downtown Asheville? I mean, again, from at least from a tourism standpoint, right? Because that's what Explore Asheville is like, is that a priority? And she said, yeah, absolutely. So, because I've worked downtown for all 20 years that I've been here, I can say that I definitely see more Black people and people of color downtown as tourists. Like, it's obvious that they're tourists, than I have ever seen before, but it's still not a large number by any means, as you know.
I think that we still have a very depressed local Black community, man. I think that the business statistics are Dr. and Mrs. Mullen, they do a study every few years on Black Asheville, and every time that they do the study, man, the numbers come out and we are ranking last in like business ownership, we're ranking last in property ownership, in per capita income. Like, it's I just don't know how so many people can say, oh, this town is so progressive, but it's only progressive for a few people, and I think it's only progressive for tourism dollars. So there's some things that I've worked with you on to try to even that out, man. And one of them was a great program that we need to bring back, which is Inside Out. Man, I can't wait to get some of these young guys in here that got these stories to tell, to really teach them how to get their feet wet in the music business and actually become a business. Like I have to give you a lot of props because out of the black entertainers that do make it in this town, you are a big part of all of our success, from me to Po Folk, you know what I'm saying, to Mook to you've helped Lyric out a lot. It's been a lot of folks that have been getting helped out, you know what I'm saying, by the thing that you do in your advocacy. So if you could just talk a little bit about how you continue to dig in and some of your credentials in music, so people can know that you ain't just playing. You know?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. So, and also don't let me forget, because after we talk about music, I want to talk to you about something else. So just remind me. But anyway, so yeah, so I've been working in music for about 16 years, and I've run Echo Mountain Recording Studio here in town. So I've been there from the start. I've been there for 14 years, and I've produced festivals and events. You know that I did the Goombay Festival for 3 years, after it didn't happen for a year, and helped to bring it back with the YMI, and produced a number of other events, work with Gladys Knight, doing some benefit show with her for her community foundation here in town. And now I have Connect Beyond Festival, which was supposed to happen the first weekend in April, would have been the third year for it. And that is my baby. That's all about how to use art to create social change, right? So it's music, film, and literature. We have journalists, and we basically bring people in from all over the country and talk about what people are doing that's working in their communities, and then using art as a form, whether that's music or film, or books to inspire and invoke change. So, and then we worked on this program Inside Out. And I also am the co-founder of Asheville Music Professionals. So, which is a nonprofit that does education, advocacy, and connection collaboration.
Great group, man. Every time I come to those events, I learn so much.
Yeah, and so we host monthly meetups or workshops and things like that on everything from songwriting process to publishing to, we do a health and wellness event every year. So we talk about mental health and music. We work with Music Cares and do custom earplugs for people in the music community. And but yeah, so, and one of the reasons, I created Inside Out. First, I did a version of it with Nex Millen, but we did it for my buddy Keenan Lake, who's got My Daddy Taught Me That. So
shout out to Keenan, man, and Leslie, man. My daddy taught me that. My sister taught me that. Doing great work in the community, man.
Which are great. And I just talked to Keenan today, and he's hanging tough. He had the guys downtown. Well, the guys chose to go downtown today and help clean up, which was really great. So, but anyways, so we created this, we put a music program together, like an 8-week program for the kids. But one of the things that was important to me, and again, it's so funny because it's like you came to our copyright and publishing event.
Yeah.
That we had at the studio. And I remember you being there because you reached out to me afterwards because you lost your keys. And you were like, did I leave my keys there at the studio? And that one, we happened to have, we had a couple entertainment lawyers, and we had a guy that was a hit songwriter from Nashville, Kent Blasey, who wrote a song with Garth Brooks and a number of other #1 hits. And we had a music publisher there. And so anyways, I remember from that, and there must have been 85 people at that event. I remember from that, a group of people decided, because all those guys were from Nashville, right? Yep. So obviously, it's like pulling people. It's like usually we have people from Atlanta or the Triangle, or from places, like Nashville that are like full-time music folks and stuff like that. So, So a group of people decided to like do some songwriting trips or going to Nashville and go to the not Nashville Songwriters Association, all that sort of stuff. And I remember when you were looking for your keys, I'm like, I'll look for them. And you were like, man, thanks for doing these. I really appreciate it. They're super helpful. But just don't forget about us Black folk that are making music. And once again, it was like, you know, I took that to heart, right? And so part of it's like I was raised on Motown music. You know, my earliest memory is listening to Otis Redding on a little 45 that I had that I just wore out, like that had sitting on the dock of the bay. And I can't remember what the B-side was, over and over again. And, you know, where my love of music lies is with R&B, soul. I love rap music. I love hip hop. And so I was like, you know, one of the other things that I learned too, because I used to be a mentor in the community and I worked with a family with a bunch of kids, and I realized, you know, there's a lot of support for kids, right? And after school programs and this and that, and maybe not enough. But what I recognize is that so many parents drop their kids off and like sit in their car on their phones or something. And I was like, why don't we have anything for adults?
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? In that regard. And so I was like, I went to Next and I said, I want to revamp Inside Out to make it geared towards adult people, adult musicians that want to have a career in the music industry. And so, and we reworked it and we decided to just do that trial program, you know, and there was 18 people. There's 18 of y'all there for 8 weeks. And each week I revamped what next week was going to be based on what we did. But, you know, it was such an interesting, I mean, I'm so glad we did it and so much came out of it. And yes, we'll do it again. But also, you know, it was really interesting. I mean, look at how things started between me and Po Folk there. You know,
it was kind of tough. It was It was sometimes where I was just sitting there looking like, damn.
Yeah.
What's going on? You know, and then that's where I met my business partner Mook at, and now we doing great things. You know, so that and to your credit, it's when I said that to you, like, don't forget about us. But it's a lot of Black people making music, man. Because we was having to talk about venues and, you know, what because you wanted to see more representation in the night like downtown. You wanted to see more people. You wanted to see more local artists, and we kind of looked at it, and it was like, okay, you see what's going on. Like, no disrespect to none of the guys, we're just gonna keep it 100. But that was like around the time where it was like free radio, and I love Austin and Johnny and Coastal, but those guys are not truly representative of everything that's going on in the town. You dig what I'm saying? And you were you were a person that kind of helped to kind of usher that in, man, with just being able to co-sign for people and being able to like show your outward support kind of, and Allie Marshall as well, man. Shout out to her. Y'all really championed it for us and gave us a lot more visibility. And to your credit, you were already thinking about like, how could this be something different, you know?
Right.
And I really appreciated that sentiment coming from you, because it's not always that easy for folks who have a lot to lose, who are professionals, to deal with kind of green rappers. You know what I'm saying? It's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing to deal with green rappers, because a lot of the guys don't understand the protocol and how to send out an email and, you know, how to approach things and how to present yourself, you know. And so you had to deal with you had to kind of be a sculptor a little bit. But I appreciate, you know what I'm saying, that you were able to advocate for us in a way that, because it could have went, and a lot of people don't even want to take that risk, you know. And you were one to take that risk, and I just want to say I appreciate that a lot, you know, because you really didn't have to at all.
Well, but I wanted to, and I still continue to want to do it, right? Because it's you know, it's like it lifts everybody up, right? And so, and that's the thing, is like, we've talked about this as like the whole like each one teach one sort of thing. It's like I have this knowledge, I have this experience, and I have the reputation to go in and say, hey, this guy deserves a shot, or and which I've had that I've done on numerous occasions where I've gone to venues and say, you need to let this Black promoter do a show here, and I am vouching for him, because you know me and you don't know him, and this business is all about relationships.
Who
And that sort of thing. But also, it's it's just like, and a lot of it just has to do with education, right? And again, this is all tied together, meaning that like having the opportunity, like not everybody has the opportunity to go to school and learn music theory and do all this and all of that, and you know what I mean? And it's like, and you shouldn't have to. Like, that's the beauty of making music today, is you don't have to, but you can learn some of the basic things and from other people, and we can share this information, and music is such a great way to, bring us together in so many different ways and be a universal language and help to articulate the way that we feel. And that, and it's, and also, I'm not a fan of like necessarily like the now more than ever, right? Because when that's like discounting other times in history, right? It's like, well, yeah, well, civil rights now more than ever. What I'm doing is I'm thinking about like, if not now, then when?
Yeah.
Right? Like, if not now, if I'm not going to put the time and energy into it, into helping others, then when am I going to do it?
Exactly.
And so that's, and also, and this brings me to my next thing of like what I wanted to ask you is that, I think there's a fine line too, that as allies, we have to be really conscious of not having the savior complex, right?
Yeah.
And so, I've always tried to be very conscious of that, of not being, and when I took over doing the Goombay Festival, for instance, like I tried to stay out of the front as possible, right? And that was like the first year that I did it, it was like really just getting it back to, because I had nothing to go off of, and so other than the fact that I'd been to the festival every year for 13, 14 years, whatever it was. But I mean, I didn't have any of the like, paper trail of like who, vendors and all this and all that. But then by the second year, it was like, this is a festival that belongs to the Black community. This is not mine at all. And so like putting together a committee of people in the community and stakeholders that to really just sort of help create what it is that they really wanted to see in the community and create it, and using the resources that I had to be able to do that. And the same thing with the music, it's like us getting a second stage and giving people the opportunity that went through Inside Out and stuck with it and committed to it, to performing on, you got to perform. Yeah. You got paid for your performance. You had to fill out a W-9 because that was part of what you had to do. You got a check with your name on it and hopefully to your business, or whatever. It's just like, we did all of those things. I can't remember who it was. It was like, this is the first time that I have been legitimately paid for a gig. And I'm like, it's a long time coming, So my point is that finding that, like, how to show up and be a good ally and ask the right questions that are not like, because I know Black people are tired of explaining like why we need to show up or whatever, in that regard. And like, we need to do our work. But at some point it's like, where's that fine line of like being, and I'm not saying it's necessarily a fine line, like you're either an ally or a savior. Cause I mean, I think it's important to like, every time I do something that's supportive or uplifts somebody, one of my friends that's Black or the Black community, I'm not posting about it to social media. To me, that's like, look at me, I've done this. And that's not why I do it. And I'm glad that's not why I'm doing it. And I'm glad I'm conscious of that. But what are your thoughts on that in terms of like white people asking you how to show up or that sort of thing? Are you like, read the damn internet,
No. I think that any person who is white in America who goes to a Black person for understanding on the race issues have already made a critical first step, because in order for white supremacy to stay alive, people have to be silent about it because it only works like behind the scenes. You know, you can't be it was one point in time where the community supported it and you could be overt about it, like in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. You know, that time done went away, so now it's like a lot more subversive. So if somebody that is white comes to me and they say, man, how can I be a better community partner with you as a black person, then they've already shook the shackles mainly of the bullshit off of them. You know what I'm saying? And from that point, it's a refining process. It all depends on the personality of the people, of the person. Like, you done taught a lot of classes and you know which students you can kind of give the instructions to and give them the information to leave them alone, and the ones that you got to kind of walk through. You see what I'm saying? So it's my responsibility, if I want people to be kind of open and accepting of me, then me being a person who I feel like got a little bit of wisdom, it's my responsibility to listen when somebody is truly trying to understand. You know, we have this idea, you know, this cancel culture, which I think is good in some ways, but in some ways it's absolutely missing the point. I think for a person who really wants to listen and learn and figure out why, what they can really do, they want to understand so that they don't go any further. There's those type of people, and then there's those type of people who just want to answer the question, and then they want to defend themselves all the way down to make sure to try to keep themselves out of that box. I think my responsibility in that and how I feel about that is that I'm not one of these separatists. I don't believe that black people that black people in America need to separate off and have their own country or whatnot. No, black folks, white folks, Native Americans, and folks from Mexico built this country for the most part. You know what I'm saying? We built it. We created all of this together. You see what I'm saying? The only thing that's keeping it fucked up is that we all agreeing that white supremacy is what it is. In every community, by the things that we do, we are kind of submitting to it. You know, we keep the system in play by kind of playing our parts. And we got to interrupt that by not playing our parts anymore. And one of the things that's not playing your part is asking, what can I do to change this situation? Especially if you at a point of ignorance, like a white person, you know, like a white person who just regular, who kind of start feeling one day that this ain't right. You know, black people don't have the luxury of being ignorant about race relationships. It permeates every segment of our life. We got to be aware. We got to be vigilant. White folks can la-di-da. Pretty much in America, you can just la-di-da. If you stay ignorant and buying shit for long, right. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to worry about anything. And for a person to wake up from that easy dream, because that's like a narcotic almost, you know, that type of lifestyle. When you wake up from that and you want to change, then the worst of the poison already done been pulled out. You know what I'm saying? So I'm here. All of y'all white folks that want to find out, you know, I'm here. I don't mind the questions. Once I tell you a few things, you're going to go do your research, though. You know what I'm saying? Because it's going to hit you different. But I think that people who are just stay open and willing. Don't let your heart be covered up by guilt.
Right.
To where you ignore the problem because you don't want to be guilty or have any type of responsibility for what's going on. Listen to your heart. Sometimes that pain will lead you to a beautiful place. You know.
Well, here's another question I have for you too. So, which I think is interesting is, I think what's interesting about this time is that because of the pandemic, because we have so much more time on our hands, and not necessarily everybody, but I'm talking about like definitely people from a place of privilege, right? That it's hard to not see what's happening, right? So let's say like 6 years ago with Eric Garner, I Can't Breathe, and him being killed, you know, people were working and in their own little bubble, and oh, little Jimmy's got to go to soccer practice, and you know, Annie's got to go to swim practice, and I got to do this and that and blah, 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 and Pilates and, you know, whatever. And so it was a lot easier to sort of like, oh, I'm not seeing that, right? And just be in your bubble and just do your thing. Now it's like there, right? And you can't really escape it. And so I which is one of the reasons why I think it's so how it is right now. But also, so say for instance, say somebody doesn't have a lot of black friends or any black friends. Let's say somebody doesn't have any black friends, right? And part of that's just not their circle. They've never explored that. They're afraid to explore that for whatever reason. Maybe it's part of its guilt, like, oh, maybe I should have already had more black friends by now, or, oh, maybe I should do more. What is your answer to that, to someone who's like, I don't even have anybody close enough to me that's black that I can ask?
Wow. Then you got to go to the internet. Then you got to start looking up these terms like white supremacy.
But how do they broach the subject, or how do they, you know what I mean? I'm not saying like go out on the street and be like, hey, black person, will you be my friend? But you know what I'm saying is like how, I mean, because obviously, let's talk about right here in Asheville, because I've seen it firsthand, right? Like I have been that white person that's been called by other white people that are like, can you invite some people to our event so that, it's like this transactional thing, right? Where it's just like, can you give some black people tickets to our event so that there's black people here? Which then, of course, I know my job is to go, well, why do you not have any sort of interaction with black people already to do that, right? So,
yeah. Well, you have,
and that's true.
And there's a lot you can go, and there's community centers. Like Asheville has a wonderful Parks and Rec department, and there is a community center or a park in every neighborhood. Every neighborhood has a park or a community center in it. And then there's this other thing on the internet you can look at Asheville and its makeup in the different communities in there. You can find Burton Street. You can find Shiloh. You can find like Montfort used to have a very big black community around that community center.
Right.
Black Mountain has a black community in it. You can find the black communities and you can attend church. That's a great way to meet black people. Go to church.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Great way to meet white people too. If you're my black friends out there who don't have any white friends, y'all can go to church. You know what I'm saying? You can go to places where and you go in a spirit of curiosity. Go in a spirit of not to go make a friend, but just to go experience what it's like to be in those spaces. And and then like a phone call beforehand can help out. You can call some of these pastors and preachers and talk to them and tell them your problem. That's the thing about it, man. My idea is that, man, we want to help folks to learn the ways to be in the world if we can, yeah, man, you got to go to places where black folks are at, and not with the attitude of, like you got this safari hat on. Oh, Christ, the bush looking at black people in their natural habitat.
Right.
Yeah, you got to get rid of all of that.
I'm here to save you, you know?
You have to really fight. You got to fight with yourself. You got to really do battle with yourself to uncover, because we sneaky, man. The ego is sneaky. It'll try to hide its bullshit. We will hide it from our own self because nobody wants to be a piece of shit. So we'll rationalize, we'll justify all of this, but it comes to a point to where, and if you really want to have black friends, then you'll find some. You know what I'm saying? You'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Go to rap concerts. There's rap concerts. Whenever it jump back off, go to rap concerts. Go to Essence Fest in New Orleans, man. If you live in Asheville, come to Goon Bay.
Yeah.
Whenever Just Folks is having a little get together down in the Triangle Park, swing by, get your fish plate, get your hot dog, listen to what the people have to say. Engage with we live in America. It's a lot of white folks that went to school with black people. You might not have talked to them in 20 years. Reach out on Facebook.
Right.
Start the conversation. Say, hey, man, I don't know much about you, but I know I don't want my country to be the bag of shit that it is. So, man, can we talk about our experiences in this land? See, we got to share our experiences. And when we share our experiences, then we're able to see our commonalities. And when we're able to see our commonalities, then the differences don't seem to be that It doesn't seem to be that bad when we can share in our commonality. So that's what I would say, man, to the ones who, and then like, man, you got to be really, and a lot of people need to go to therapy, man. Like that should be mandated at all adults. If you make it to 20, you need to go 5 years of therapy. At
I
30,
agree.
5 years. At 40, you need another 5 years.
I agree. I've been doing it for a long time.
Yes.
And it's funny because like I've been going to therapy for about 18 years, and I feel like for the first time in that amount of time, it's finally, and there's still some people who look at it like, what's wrong with you? Right? But it used to always be that way, and I've never hid it, right? I've always been like proudly going to therapy. And I remember sometimes I for some reason I would accidentally always put my therapy sessions on the session calendar for the recording studio. And so my, like, one of the engineers would look at it and go, who's Richard coming in at 10 o'clock on Tuesday? And I'm like, oh shit, I did it again. That's my therapist. And they'd be like, oh, I don't want to. I'm like, no, there's nothing wrong with going to therapy. Like, it's okay. Like, we're all fucked up in some form or fashion, right? It's just,
Americans,
you know, it's just like our experiences shape the way that we are. And trauma is a real thing, you know, like in our lives, like generational trauma, you know, and if you don't deal with that stuff, it comes out in some form or fashion. I know.
And I think that that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing like the collective mental health of the United States. And we have been so schizophrenic in our approach to life in this country that it's going to take a lot of straightening out to get together. But we are coming to the end of our time, Jess. And if you have anything to plug, I know you've been doing some workout time for the folks to tap in.
Yeah. So I've just been doing that as just, again, another thing is like, while I've had the time, because, you know, I'm a trainer. And so I teach at the Asheville Racquet Club. In fact, I go back to teaching. We're doing outdoor classes. I start on Thursday. So it's just another thing that I've been trying to do, just like, because I know how important exercise is to help with your mental state. So I've been doing, you know, online public workouts on Facebook Live for people. I've been making a bunch of music in the studio with Ben, which has been really great. We're about to release a bunch of remixes that we've done as Golden Graveyard. That's our DJ project.
Graveyard. Okay.
Golden Graveyard.
And y'all just mainly remixes?
We've been mainly doing remixes, but what we do is like, so we've been doing them for my workout classes. So we'll take like a bunch of songs, and then we might just take like the acapella vocal and then and then create all the backing music. And then we use a bunch of beats. You know, we'll use like some classic stuff like the Lever Brothers, but then we also just use Ableton and the Push, and we make a bunch of stuff as well. So it's like a mix of like, we're making some music, we're using some already created tracks or vocals, and then using just a bunch of beats, and we're just, you know, making loops and stuff like that. So it's been fun. We got about 7 of them now that are about 45 minutes a piece.
Oh wow.
Yeah. That's so we've just been doing some songs too. Like we did, the first one we did, which it's not that good, so I won't send it to you, but we did The Choice Is Yours, you know, with Black Sheep, because that's like my hype song.
Hey man, and then from Black Sheep, man, that's a good dude, North Carolina guy from Sanford, North Carolina, actually, man.
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah, man. Dre's from Black Sheep. Yeah, he lives in New York now, but he definitely he's from Sanford and still comes down here.
Really? Oh, that's
Sheep. Yeah, good brother.
Then we did one of the Delegation. We did the song "Oh Honey," which I love. So I'll send you that one. So we just did a remix of that. But yeah, then some, like Ben just did an all original track for me for one of my workouts too. So, but yeah, it's been that's what's been keeping me sane in a lot of ways. But you know, I just appreciate I appreciate you. I look forward to us getting Inside Out going again. And I have time now, you know, it's like Connect Beyond's on hold for a minute because I just can't bring myself, after spending 10 months like planning and coordinating schedules and putting all that together. Like I'm not there yet, right? Where I have to like work on rescheduling it and working on all that and figuring it out, say for like November, only for it to be, you know, have to get canceled again, you know? And so I haven't figured it out yet, but you know, it's just tough. And I appreciate you. I appreciate, you know, I wanted to ask you some of these questions because, you know, not necessarily for myself. I mean, yes, some of it for myself, but like, you know, obviously I'm thinking about, yeah, like I'm asking for other people that have asked me some things, and I'm like, I'm the wrong person to ask. You are like, ask somebody else. But also just getting that understanding and just I just hope people are a little bit delicate with each other in that regard of understanding that we're all dealing with something.
Yeah, we all dealing with something real rough. Thank you for coming on. I really, really appreciate you coming on. And we'll actually have Michael Selburn on the smoke break here this week too. So yeah, we're gonna get a lot of good opinions this week, man, about what's going on, because I think this is some important time. Thank you, Jessica, for everything that you've done, and thank you for answering questions and asking questions and being honest today with us on this smoke break. We really, really appreciate you. All right, everybody, this has been a smoke break with Spaceman Jones, and we'll see y'all next week, man.
This has been a smoke break with Spaceman Jones, sponsored by Earthy Now and Urban Combat Wrestling. See you next week.